CNBC, 11th of August 2023, the new China embargo suggests the U.S. may be taking note of its failures with Russia as it focuses on Taiwan. Analysts speculate that the United States' efforts to de-risk China by enacting a new investment prohibition indicate that Western allies might be taking a cue from Russia's national security blunders. The latest step in Washington's distancing from Beijing due to perceived national security dangers was the announcement on Wednesday by the White House of a restriction on some U.S. investments in China related to sensitive technologies, including computer chips. Considering the unimaginable consequences of a battle between China and Taiwan, analysts suggested the U.S. was taking these actions in response to growing tensions over Taiwan. According to U.S. President Joe Biden, the executive order intends to prevent China's military from obtaining finance and technology from the United States, especially in areas that counter United States and allied capabilities. It is set to take effect early next year. The world's two largest economies have occasionally been said to be decoupling due to these actions, whereas the United States has preferred the phrase de-risking. Beijing retaliated against the declaration on Thursday, stating that it was resolutely opposed to what it described as the blatant economic coercion and technological bullying of the United States. The ambassador of China to the United States has previously threatened retaliation from Beijing for such actions. The Economic Security Council of Ukraine advisor Olena Yurchenko stated, "These preemptive ideas about decoupling, taking the manufacturing and the manufacturing facilities from China to India etc. that's all done with a view to potential conflicts, so that when it erupts, let's say in Taiwan, it's not so excruciating to impose some restrictions." In an interview with CNBC prior to the announcement on Wednesday, Yurchenko described the extent of the risks associated with Taiwan as unimaginable. Since the Civil War ended in 1949, Taiwan has been run independently of China, although Beijing still considers the island part of its territory. Since most Westerners view Taiwan as a sovereign state, the dispute over the island is a global hotspot. On the other hand, in a white paper published last year, Beijing has advocated for Taiwan's reunification, characterizing it as an unalterable component of China. Renowned China hawk Kyle Bass told CNBC on Tuesday that he thought Chinese President Xi Jinping would invade Taiwan as early as next year, citing his consultation with military specialists. He brought up Beijing's recent increase in military exercises in the Taiwan Strait. CNBC was unable to confirm his claims independently. When CNBC asked the Chinese government to respond to Bass claims, they did not get back immediately. However, it has previously stated that the matter about Taiwan is domestic and that the military drills are a reaction to the recurring gatherings between Taiwan's president and American delegates, which Beijing views as unacceptable. Taking a cue from Russia. The United States has been clear about its intentions to reduce risk from China. In response to mounting international tensions after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Biden administration has been stepping up steps over the past few months. Focusing on international relations and geopolitics, Yurchenko of the Economic Security Council of Ukraine stated that the coincidence of the two events' time was not there. She stated, "The Western governments are trying to learn a long-term lesson from what they've seen in Russia." In reaction to Russia's protracted war, Western partners have imposed unprecedented sanctions on the country. Nevertheless, CNBC research reveals that Moscow manages to get around sanctions by depending on intermediaries to assist it in importing Western items, including cutting-edge technologies for its military hardware. China is keeping a careful eye on how the West is handling Russia, according to Alina Rybakova, senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. China is said to be the central middleman providing Western technology to Russia's armed forces. If China is the main factor assisting Russia in evading these export restrictions, how can we possibly believe that we will be victorious against China if something were to happen with Taiwan if we are ineffective with Russia?" said Rybakova. The Chinese authorities did not answer a request for a response to the remarks made by Yurchenko and Rybakova. Sanctions from the West on Moscow are still in place, nearly a year and a half after the Russian military invaded Ukraine. On Tuesday, the United Kingdom imposed fresh penalties on several international companies that it believes are providing Russian military equipment and armaments to use against the Ukrainian people. This comes after the European Union unveiled a fresh set of sanctions in June. Among them is an anti-circumvention tool designed to prevent the sale, supply, transfer or export of specific sanctioned items and technology to certain third nations that serve as Russia's go-betweens. When asked last month if the sanctions would serve as a warning about potential fallout from future confrontations, such as those between China and Taiwan, spokesman Daniel Ferry of the European Commission told CNBC he could not comment or make predictions. Cut off relations with China. China, the second biggest global economy, is broadly acknowledged to have contributed significantly more to international relations and global markets than Russia. As such, the West is exercising more prudence. Compared to the United States, the European Union has shown greater ambivalence toward China thus far. The British government stated on Wednesday that it was still evaluating potential national security risks attached to some investments and was debating whether to join the United States. BASE, however, stated that countries would have to improvise swiftly in a confrontation involving Taiwan and that Western allies' current strategy of a slow decoupling may be wrong. "We must exert more discipline. I believe that will happen, but I'm not saying decouple and walk away right away," he continued. The founder and chief investment officer of Heyman Capital Management, BASE, expressed support for new rules governing American investment in Chinese technology in an interview with CNBC's Street Signs on Tuesday before Biden signed the executive order. He declared, "We should have stringent outbound restrictions on companies that deal with the Chinese military building their aircraft carriers, their war machines, their ships, and their tanks, as well as on companies that specialize in genomics and surveillance."